Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is supposed to be a banger of a series. Several of you have reached out and mentioned that apparently you think, right now I would never call it that, but some of you apparently believe that this best of 5 is the StarCraft 2 series of the year. Spotting right here in the top left hand corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than MaxPax. His opponent down in the bottom left with the blue SCVs, of course, we have none other than the world champion, and his name is Clem. This particular series is the finals of the Wardy Monday, I think number 9. It was played a couple of days ago, and it's not the new multiplayer balance patch, so this is the current patch, the current server. So yeah, I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. Supposedly, this is one of the very best series played this year. And I'm not all too surprised that it's going to be one between these two. In case you haven't really been paying too much attention to the StarCraft world, MaxPax and Clem, they play against each other over and over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, the only player that Clem struggles against when it comes to playing with the Protoss pieces, well, is MaxPax. I don't think I really see Clem lose against any other Protoss. I'm trying to, I make that claim right now, and I'm trying to think to myself, when's the last time I've seen Clem lose to not MaxPax? Right? When's the last time he lost to a Protoss player that isn't Max? Well, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure those games are out there. I probably did cast them as well, but none of them actually come to mind. The fact of the matter is that Clem is insanely good in this matchup. Now, Clem actually did make a point about the new multiplayer balance patch as well, and I do think that this is worth highlighting. So Clem apparently has been playing the PTR a little bit. He's the world champion of StarCraft 2, and he said two things. He said the matchup, TVP in particular, it seems to be going in the right direction, but he makes two suggestions. So first off, he thinks that Protoss needs early game defensive tools. So that's his first claim. Apparently, he does not believe that the early game for Protoss is going to be good enough for PvT. And then secondly, he says that the Ghost needs to be nerfed in both matchups. I think it's pretty cool that the world champion of StarCraft looks at the game right now and actually calls for nerfs to his own units. That is pretty cool. Yeah, Clem might be the main character of StarCraft 2. Like, he might be the main protagonist. He apparently believes that the Ghost is a little bit overtuned. The Balance Council, however, does not, which is interesting. Now, Clem, of course, is really good at controlling Ghost, right? And that's one of the big dilemmas. The Ghost is very much so a unit that requires about 100 to maybe 150 actions per minute, all on its own. It's a unit that rewards a ton of skill. Now, if you're below probably Grandmaster League, maybe even, well, up until like mid-Grandmaster or so, the odds of you controlling the Ghost particularly cleanly, they're very, very low. And really, there's only a handful of players out there, like maybe 2, maybe 3, that are very, very oppressive when it comes to controlling Ghosts. And Clem just does it better than anybody else. We have players like Maru, who also, yeah, he likes to play Ghosts too, and he likes to play them relatively passively. But Clem, he's constantly in your face, and he does really make the unit look pretty broken. But it's also very specifically a Clem issue, you know, where it's kind of like Serral for many years. Serral was winning lots of tournaments, but Serral also just seemed to be able to control better. Is it a player issue or is there a skill issue? It's always hard to say. Anyways, this is a TVP. The Ghost will be coming up, but not until Terran gets to at least 3 bases. For now, though, this is a relatively normal build. Interestingly enough, MaxPax not opening up with the good old Phoenix build. I mean, we don't see a ton of Phoenix openers. This is not a terrible opener from Terran either against Phoenixes, but Phoenixes are generally a little bit more popular on Amphion than on other maps. Blink is about 90% of the way done, though, maybe even more than that, so Clem does need to be a little cautious. Widowmine took a bunch of damage, shouldn't be able to get a ton of damage done. This is zoning away, though, against those probes, and Max is going to have to run here. In the meantime, we have a Cyclone at the front, trying to be annoying. Blink did finish up. Ooh, nice body block. Not really losing too much there in the process. Did the medevac? Where's the medevac? Oh, dude, it's impossible to see on the minimap. Look at the minimap. Do you see the medevac? There's a tiny little blue dot. There's about 3 pixels on the minimap. Anyways, It is hiding over there in the corner, but the majority of the units have already been picked off. Curious little follow-up right here from Clem. He decided to also build 2 Banshees together with the Cloak. Alright, fair enough. We have additional barracks coming up here on the back of this, and I'm assuming we will be seeing medevac production start up 2 at a time here momentarily. Third Nexus in the meantime, though, has been planted by Max. He's got triple gateway, so this is all very, very normal here at MaxPax, who's now going to test the waters. I don't think he's really going to be warping in additional units here. He could, but the nice thing is, of course, with 4 of those Stalkers, you can put them all inside of the medevac, and with good control, you can really deal some damage while not really losing anything. So far, so good. You always have to be worried about Stimpack finishing up. This also did give him the advantage, though, of spotting that the Banshee comes in, and since it had Cloak, there's basically no chance that Stimpack would be finishing here at any point in the game just yet, so yeah. Nicely done here so far by MaxPax. He did lose a handful of workers, but 4 is relatively little considering the amount of pressure that Clem is going for. Clem apparently not done yet. There's no third CC. We will probably be seeing someone or some of that here momentarily if he wants to continue playing the macro game, but for now, this is a big commitment here by the French Terran. Banshee has gone down already. Siege tanks trying to get in position. Shield battery very exposed. Charge is only about a third of the way done, but we do have the reinforcing Stalkers and that Prism coming here from the back. Immortal now also available. I think we're gonna commit. Blinks forward, targets down one of those siege tanks. Second siege tank goes down as well. You know what's even better than a concave? A circle. Banshee together with the medevac drop right now inside of the main base. Looks like MaxPax also sees that in time. Observer might be in some trouble, but yeah, it's mostly because the shield battery is out of energy. Really, really nicely done here so far by Max. These are all very delicate attacks from the Terran player to hold, and he's been doing it with minimum losses. That now gives him the opportunity to be aggressive on the other side of the map. Dude, MaxPax makes Protoss look so busted. It's actually funny, dude. Everybody under the sun is complaining about this matchup, and then you see Max play it, and you're like, yeah, no, just micro better. Just play good. Have you considered not making mistakes? Oh, you lost an Immortal. Not so immortal now. That is obviously the main concern, right? The one that we hear players talk about. Like, yeah, we can buff Protoss, make them win offline tournaments, but it might make MaxPax too powerful. Yeah, this is game. I don't think there's really anything you can do. I mean, you can stay in the game and try to survive, but this is way too much damage being done. In the meantime, MaxPax is on the other side of the map. Actually, you know what? Maybe this can justify losing about, well, a full base worth of economy? I don't think so. But this is actually getting quite a bit of counter damage, though. It's that medevac from the early game together with one of the leftover cloaked Banshees. This is Clem opening his Terran fridge and trying to figure out what's still in. Well, apparently he found some leftovers and he decided to just get whatever damage he can done. I mean, 12 probes, 13 probes is not bad. It's actually quite a bit of work. In the meantime, though, the Danish Protoss is also microing on the other side of the map. And I think this will still certainly be enough damage. Kind of insane how Clem is like throwing the kitchen sink at the opponent. And he's still maximizing the damage with it. Maybe I was a little early calling this GG, man. Is Clem gonna push this back? I mean, mules are good. 28 SCVs is recoverable when you've just killed 17 probes on the other side of the map. Mules are real strong. We have 3 orbital commands. They will make up for some of that worker deficit. He decides to aggressively blink in. Okay, picks off the latest units from the Terran. And it is indeed MaxPax who obtains the victory, but he had to fight for it. Looking at the current world rankings according to Aligulek, Serral is in first, Clem is in second, and MaxPax is in third. So we have a Zerg in the number 1 position, a Terran in the number 2, and then a Protoss in the number 3. Below that, we have Hero, another Protoss player. That's the only 2 Protosses in the top 10, but they're 3rd and 4th respectively, which is honestly not bad. The 5th is Dark, 6th is Raynor, Björn, Olivera, Kjör, all Terran players in 7, 8, and 9, and then Shin in number 10. Yeah, the thing about making drastic changes with a balance patch is that all of this balance is relatively delicate. Right, if you look at the ratings, so Serral's sitting so far ahead of everybody else. Genuinely, if it wasn't for Serral, Zerg would not be, nearly as good as it has been for the last couple of years. Individual skill is very significant. Anyways, we've got ourselves 2 barracks building on the other side of the map. Clem apparently not too happy with how things went in game number 1, so we're being a little bit more aggressive. Now, what I like about MaxPax, and I know I've been fanboying about MaxPax quite a bit in pretty much all my casts as of late, but what I like about MaxPax is that he's pretty much flawless. Alright, now that might be a little too far, but he's extremely good at that aggression, very good at that micro, very good at picking the right strategies. Maybe he can be slightly predictable, but his early game control is phenomenal. And did he just actually see? No, he did not. So he doesn't actually know exactly what's out there, but he should still be able to hold this if he at least catches wind of it. He needs to have a look. Oh, he's actually going around that side. So he saw the SCV coming in from a strange angle. So he's a little suspicious. And indeed, that suspicion will be confirmed. We've got ourselves double Marauder production on the other side of the map. Now, what do you do against this? What do you do against this in the, well, upcoming multiplayer balance patch? That's my real concern. Because shield battery overcharge is a big part of the defense. Shield batteries will have 50 shields extra and 50 health extra as well. Fair enough. But honestly, I don't know if that's going to be enough. Anyways, we'll find out. Obviously, you can't battery overcharge, and in this patch, there is still shield battery overcharge in this game. This is the old patch, or the current patch. You can still go ahead and do it, but if you don't see this coming in, it is really tricky. So we don't have a commitment here into any sort of tech just yet. It will be a Stargate on the back of this, but that is not going to be relevant until these Marauders already run in. So Concussive Shells is finishing up. That's the slow ability of the Marauder. Perfect timing here by Clem. It is all up to MaxPax now to try and buy as much time as possible. Oracle is good here. Void Ray is good here. Even if Phoenix is good here, although that's kind of mediocre. If you want to shut this down for good, obviously you can just go into a Void and be okay. This is a big commitment by Clem though, and he needs to justify this. He knows he's been spotted, so the question is, when does he commit? Well, apparently right now is that call. Void Ray indeed is gonna come up. Shield battery overcharge will be used. I mean, honestly, shield battery overcharge isn't gonna cut it against this many units. So that that Void Ray is gonna be an absolute necessity. Probes here trying to shield and body block against that Stargate. Clem only killing a handful of probes so far, but he is gonna get some more of it. I mean, do you stand and fight this, Max? That is a big commitment. Yeah, there's the Void Ray. Lasers are pretty good. 13 probes go down. Is that the end of the world? Keep in mind that this is a one-base play here from Clem, so he doesn't yet have another expansion. As a matter of fact, he starts up a barracks right now again at home. Stimpack is going to continue, so Clem is doubling down with one-base aggression. Oracle on the back it is right now for Max. I would imagine that the Void Ray is going to be going in that direction. One Marauder tries to go into the natural to just maximize DPS. That Stimpack is never going to finish. Probes are going to be fighting that Marauder. We should have an Oracle coming out. Honestly, just activating the Pulsar Beam would be huge. Marauder trying to drag that Void Ray as far away as possible. I don't think you really want to activate the defensive ability here of the Oracle because it costs a bunch of energy. Yeah. Okay. That was the most obnoxious Marauder ever. You know what? Clem is going to continue onwards. He still has units. Stimpack is sticking, one at a time here, right? Like 1 second at a time. The upgrade is progressing here. About halfway done. Oracle is looking around to see if there's any reinforcing units on that side of the map. We do have a Cyclone now just about to pop out. Command Center will be finishing in maybe a minute or so from now, but this is all very tricky for MaxPax. How do you decide what your best course of action is? Max has 2 bases, but only 21 workers. Clem has got only 1 base, but he's got 27. Income-wise, this will be an advantage for certain here for the Terran. Especially with those mules. He was waiting for the Void Raid to show up, and now we're gonna do some worker harassment here. In the meantime, though, those Marines and Marauders are still on the other side of the map. Keep in mind that the Oracles use energy when they fire their beams and when they activate their beams. So even when his army gets recalled, they will not have an easy time just killing all of that stuff. Do you just recall the Void Ray here? Do you not recall anything? Do you just use an Oracle for base defense? I mean, there is indeed a bunch of... Yeah, there are a bunch of Marines right now in the mix. Stimpack at this point is done. The army did get recalled back home. Pulsar beams will be able to finish all of this off. And MaxPax actually holds this. MaxPax now finds himself, after losing 16 probes, with a pretty substantial worker advantage. In the meantime, though, Clem is finishing up his second command center. Starport will also be finishing here momentarily. Stimpack at this point is done for the bio units, but they're mostly going to be using their combat drugs to run home a little bit faster. Void Ray trying to see if it can finally get something done. Make the beam thick! Yeah, there we go. Combat shields. It's gonna finish. That was really close. But it will be enough right there for Clem. Okay. In the meantime, what do we do right now at home? Well, apparently it's gonna be a Twilight Council together with a bunch of additional gateways here for Max. MaxPax is gonna try and play this like it's just a relatively normal game. And I honestly can't blame him. It is difficult for him to figure out right now what the current state of the match really is like. Are you ahead economically? Probably. Your opponent has been on one base this entire time, but you were definitely lower in workers not that long ago. So it's hard to really say how many SCVs there truly are here for Clem, and obviously the firepower, the mining power of those mules is also significant. But I think, yeah, I think Charge is a good choice. Charge in general can be used very nicely to clean up the big attacks. Oh, and we're actually making a transition towards Phoenix Charge. So Clem has been bleeding out a lot of small units, right? So he's been losing, yeah, 11 Marauders and then 15 Marines as well. He's gonna have a hard time building up a big ball of bio units. He will try and get there eventually, but with those barracks flying all the way back home, he just doesn't have that many troops. This is really the majority of the army. I don't know if there's enough for Protoss to really clean this up. He's gonna have to try, though. I don't think he can really give up on that third Nexus. Charge is not gonna be finished here in time. I love the Myco on that Viking. Nicely done. Stimpack gets activated. Zealots here mostly just trying to buy as much time as possible. Pulsar beams. Okay, once more. They will be able to push this army away. Generally speaking, Marine Marauder Medevac really good against Zealots when they have enough of them, right? So it's nice when you have a big ball of Marine Marauder, you can just do a little bit of stutter step micro like what Clem is doing right now. But with Charge finishing against small troops of Marine Marauder, you can certainly make it work. This is a curious transition here for MaxPax, but it might just be the right call. Shield battery overcharge once more coming in clutch. I don't know if this was the best choice though. Yeah. I like MaxPax's thinking there. I think overall it makes a lot of sense. But this is going to be sketchy. Does he have enough to actually clean this up? We have a couple of the Medevacs, or a couple of the Phoenixes rather, trying to just deal damage wherever they can, lifting and taking a couple of those Marines out of the equation. This third base is absolutely critical though for Max, and the Marines are dealing a ton of damage. Oracle's mostly out of energy. Phoenix is being microed backwards. Careful with those Widow Mines here, Clem. They can deal a lot of friendly fire too if you're not, well, paying very close attention. One of the Phoenixes goes down. One of the Medevacs, two of the Medevacs running dangerously low. Yeah, good targeting by MaxPax. Still though, the Bio Army does remain, and apparently we're going to try and sack some of the units. Friendly fire? Okay, not quite going to happen. Clem runs away far enough, and that means that he indeed obtains the victory, but those probes almost dragged the fire into that Bio Ball. Next up, we find ourselves on Site Delta. MaxPax deciding to make the switch there towards Phoenix Zealot was really cool, but I think he probably assumed that Clem was going to be ever so slightly more passive. Generally speaking, Terrans will try to build up well, a relatively large clump of Marine Marauder medevac, right? Like, generally speaking, we see Terran players attack as soon as, like, at least one, but usually multiple upgrades finish up. But Clem basically just never let his foot off the gas. And that transition from Phoenixes and, yeah, into Zealots, it just takes a long time. MaxPax never really got the ball going. Now, the difficult call there for the Protoss, though, comes down to primarily knowing how much economy there really is for the Terran. I think if he just decided to go into Blink and just played the good old Blink Stalker follow-up, he would have been okay. Yeah, it is a difficult decision to make. You can't really sit around on the units that you have. You have to make a decision to tech up. I would imagine against most other Terran players, MaxPax would have been able to get away with it, because it does require quite a large advantage, but he had it. And then Clem hit him right at the perfect time. Obviously, hats off as well right there to Clem, right? The fact that he actually recognized that that was really his only opportunity to win the game. If he would have sat back, like maybe that's like your gut instinct, sitting back there and trying to make a large number of units before attacking again, he probably would have lost the game. I don't think that really would have... yeah, played out for him favorably. But MaxPax is just barely not able to clean up all of those units. Okay, so that now means we find ourselves on Site Delta. Where do we go from here? Well, no proxy barracks this time around. Very normal barracks on top of the high ground into a command center on the low ground as well. Reaper is going to be scouting the right side of the map to see if there's any MaxPax openers. The MaxPax build from long ago is no longer very popular. But you can run into some issues, of course, if you do decide to just send that Reaper straight across the map and then a Zealot comes marching into your natural. That is what made MaxPax famous back in the early days. The early MaxPax days, that is. Maybe about 3-4 years ago. He came up with a build that started with Pylon into Gateway. Double Pylon into Gateway. It was a little bit funky. Nobody really plays it anymore, including MaxPax. A lot of Terrans like to go for that double gas opener into a much later command center on the low ground. And as you can see, Clem, when not playing that build, when opening with a single gas into a CC on the low ground nice and early, he did still check for any sort of proxies on this side of the map over here, just to make sure that there's nothing all too aggressive going on. So, bit of a skill check right there. The ghost of MaxPax apparently still lives in Clem's head. But in the end, nothing even matters. No, in the end, we're just doing a very normal start. Stargate opener here from Max. It'll be straight into Oracles. Okay. Maybe slightly uncommon. Main problem you run into with Stargate openers like this is that there are some really annoying, like for example, Cyclone openers that can really bite you in the butt with the amount of gas that opening Stargate costs. So far, so good here. Medevac coming up for Clem. And he will be trying to see if he can get some vision of what exactly he's going up against, because at this point, I don't believe he's seen the Oracle. He knows, though, where he needs to be looking for all of that tech, and now he sees the Stargate. That's going to give him a heads up, at least, of what could be coming in. Oracle gets one worker kill. Nothing all too much. One of the popular suggestions that I've seen people mention, specifically for this matchup, is to make it so that Oracles can two-shot SCVs. Why can Oracles two-shot drones and probes, but not SCVs? I don't know. Once upon a time, Terrans were like, Oracles, annoying. SCVs have 5 more HP than probes and drones. So they have 45 health, whereas drones have 40, probes have 20 shields, 20 health. And it allows them to survive one additional hit of the Oracle, which is actually very significant. But ultimately, this is... yeah, it's one of those builds that's not very popular, but it's also just in general relatively risky to go into Oracles in this matchup. Over the years, though, there definitely have been quite a few, let's call them quality of life improvements for Terran going up against Protoss. Like the Viking damage point buff, but also, you know, obviously that Oracle change, and then the fact that the Dark Templar have like a 1 second cooldown after the blink. It's all... Terrans are being handled a little bit more gently. With Protoss, the gloves are off, you know? Like, they don't get any padding, but with Terran, it's like, no, my sweet child. Let's give the Dark Templar 1 second cooldown so your planetary doesn't die as quick. Anyways, big blink push right here for Max. Using that Oracle right now for high ground vision, and you know what? Yeah, this is not too terrible. A couple of probes have gone down as well on the other side of the map, with one of the lips coming in clutch. In the meantime, we do have the Stalkers already blinking out of the main base again. Adept gets cleaned up in the natural. We have 5 additional gateways coming up together with charge, and then +1 for the ground units. Dude, these guys are always so aggressive against one another. It's so funny, because I actually... Like, I see quite a few TVP replays coming in, and it's like a game between, like, I don't know, like... Say, like, it's like, Classic going up against Cure or whatever. Like, those guys can play some fantastic Terran versus Protoss, but generally speaking, they sit there for a little while, right? We wait until the Colossus comes out, and then we may do some blink aggression, maybe a Widowmine drop. But they kind of just sit there for a little bit. Clem and MaxPax are ready to fight right from the very start of the game. And I love watching these two, man. I don't think I'll ever get enough of it. Anyways, Widowmine drop, or no, sorry, Marine drop continues in the back of the main base of Protoss. Not only does he get a whole lot of probes, he actually also killed a significant chunk of, well, just gateway units. Good push right there from Clem. Actually, a very significant one. That's now 15 worker kills in total. MaxPax thinking about making a 4th Nexus. Lucky for him, I guess he didn't quite start it up yet, because Clem would have forced a cancel on that for certain. Okay. Are we gonna double down on this? Well, you may force him. Okay, yeah, you may be shepherding him into the main base at this rate. It's a little dangerous, but at least there will be some Stalkers waiting on the edge. It is ironic though, right? Like, everybody's complaining about ghosts. And then this is basically the highest level of Terran versus Protoss we can see. And we haven't even had a smell of ghosts yet, right? Like, they're just... it's like they're not even really a thing. These guys are so aggressive with their early game units. Like, if this was any sort of ghost play, MaxPax would have already walked all over Clem. Clem is just having a really difficult time dedicating that amount of resources to something that's going to work out for him in the long run. Well, there we go. Eventually, a Ghost Academy does start up, but it's not until the 3rd base is up and running, and I think this is the first time in this series that we see Clem with a 3rd. One Stalker misrallied. Nice push right here by Clem, though. Yeah, good bait right there with that medevac. Ooh, that medevac actually making it really quite difficult for MaxPax to escape, and suddenly that army supply count is looking mighty fine here for Clem. 84 versus only 55. This is also in the middle of that Robo Bay transition. Ghosts are coming up, but the Colossus is nowhere to be seen just yet. Shield battery overcharge is going to be an absolute necessity, but yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to keep that base alive. In the meantime, though, we do have some aggression as well over here. Zealots in the main, Zealots over at the 3rd base. This is mostly just trying to distract that main army from the Terran player. Immortal is going to pop out. That's going to be very handy against the Marauders. Good pull right there, though, by Clem. Keeps those SCVs alive. Great observer positioning here from MaxPax. He sees what's going on. In the meantime, enough gateway units have popped out to apparently push back this big army here from Max. That means that the Colossus is certainly going to be a choice. Okay. Always tempting to force field over here for some reason. I I was like seeing that. Okay, so Fort Nexus starts back up. Clem does not yet go into the 2-2. Do we have an armory? I don't see an armory, so we're not going to be able to go there. We will probably be needing one in the near future. Another buff, by the way, that Terran got. A random buff. With the most recent multiplayer balance patch we ever had. The armory, remember that? That just popped in my head. The armory became 50 gas cheaper. Why? I don't know. Nobody asked for that. Again, not a huge deal in isolation, but everything does add up over time. Good force fields. Ghosts are here, though. There are a lot of sentries. Beautiful EMP there by Clem. Removes the energy out of the only spellcaster that MaxPax has, and that means that his army is going to hit like an absolute truck. And I think that may actually just be the game-winning play right there. GG gets cold. It's our Terran player who gets another win. Next up, we find ourselves on Oceanborn. Now, I have fast-forwarded through the first couple minutes of the game because everything was seemingly very normal. MaxPax hiding a probe up north to get the scout in because he knows the timing of that Reaper. Right about 2 minutes. Reaper comes out, goes across the map. MaxPax decides to check in the main base, see if he sees anything interesting. Command center comes up right now, and even though this is relatively limited information here for the Protoss, this is all he really needs, right? When he sees the timing of that factory, he knows that it's a quick double gas. When he sees this timing of the command center, that just confirms it. He doesn't really need both, but he's got all the info he truly needs without ever going into the main base. Happy birthday. The Reaper balloon. It's scary when they pop like that, but this is gonna allow Max to go in. Blink once more as the preferred weapon of choice. There was a time where MaxPax would win against everybody with 4-gate Blink. He tried getting fancy. Oh, this is not ideal for Protoss. I guess he can at the very least push back this second Adept, but losing the Adept there does make everything just a little bit trickier. It's a Cyclone on the back, it is. So this is one of those builds that's actually quite tricky for Protoss to play if you open up Stargate. So the Stargate being 50 gas more expensive. Generally speaking, you open up with Adept to make up for some of that gas deficit. And if you go up against this and you're opening Stargate, like say you go straight into Phoenixes in particular, you're in a lot of trouble. It's one of the reasons why we do see Blink as the go-to option most of the time. Clem at this point doesn't really know exactly what he's playing against. All he's really seen is a couple Adepts. He's waiting right now for everybody to get across, and we're going to try and see if we can boost in one of those Widow Mines. Now, this is a very low HP Widow Mine. Should be an easy kill. Yep. Nicely done right there by MaxPax. Comment collected. Not all too worried. Raven right now on the back of this. Both of these guys play a ridiculous amount of games, by the way. Like, MaxPax and Clem are just playing all day, every day. There's pro gamers out there that treat StarCraft 2 like a job, and then there's guys out there that just freaking love the game and accidentally turned it into a job, you know? Like, I feel like these two are in the second category. They're just always playing. They're always online. As a matter of fact, as you're listening to this, doesn't matter when, they're probably playing. Big Blink into the main base. This is a 4-gate opener for Max. He doesn't do this all too often anymore, but it's a major skill check for Terran. When Terran plays perfectly, this is very holdable. There are siege tanks available. One of them goes down immediately, it seems. Second one's still available. Clem purposefully not sieging it up. He does have a couple of his units on the other side of the map, but obviously Blink is going to be quite good as well for the base defense. Raven gets 2 kills inside of the main base. SCV's in a world of trouble right now. With only 1 tank, you have very little area to zone. Looks like the medevac over here on the other side of the map is also gone. Raven is still hanging out, but these units are going to get cleaned up. They're trying to maximize the worker damage that they can do In the meantime, MaxPax has been deflected from the main base, but this is certainly not Clem out of the woods just yet. There's a very good chance that we're going to see continued blinks. And that's exactly what we do. We go straight into the main base. There's one siege tank on the low ground, one siege tank over here on the high ground, and that one will be picked off, although at the cost of quite a few stalkers. Third Nexus in the meantime finishing up. 15 probes is quite a lot, by the way. Did that Raven die? No, the Raven is still around. Oh. Much like the previous issue, that guy is still hanging out in the corner. Still, though, the Stalker count is huge. We are at 9 Stalkers here. There's 15 Marines, yes, but with a Prism, you can micro this for days. It's really siege tanks that can stop this, and Clem is not actually currently producing a siege tank. He did just finish one up. But usually, that is the weapon of choice. Prism going in around the site once more. One Zealot apparently has been brought across the map, and we're going to continue warpins. This is straight in the main base of Terran. Observer shows exactly what's up. Another auto turret has been dropped down, but quick reaction speed right there from MaxPax is going to deflect it. Worker count right now looking a little bit desperate. Siege tank number 17 in the main base in a little bit of trouble. Okay, SCVs have been pushed away to try and body block against this. Only a handful of Marines are available. There are units coming in from the low ground right now. Siege tank from the natural is also on siege. We do have a blink available, but MaxPax decides to use it defensively. Although only for about half of them, though. Maximizing the damage. MaxPaximizing the damage. Observer ultimately does indeed get spotted. Clem thinking, yo, how did you know? 10 SCVs have gone down on the back of this. Another aggressive blink as the siege tank was trying to siege up. Is he still squeezing out a win out of this? Some really nice control. I mean, 15 Stalkers have gone down, but they're basically responsible for killing all of this. And a lot of them were on the other side of the map while Max was trying to keep his eyes right over here. There is no more tech lab on that factory, and that means no more siege tank production. Stimpack is on the edge of finishing up right now, but there's basically no units available to stim. Keep in mind that there's also no Medivacs, and without Medivacs, it's going to be really costly. He's going to do another big warp in. He needs to try and get the Prism. Can Clem get the Prism? He will not. And that means GG gets called. We are going to game number 5. And that means that it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 5 series. We find ourselves on Ghost River. One of the trickier maps in the map pool. And apparently not one that the players avoided. They didn't veto it, but they did decide to save this one until the last one. Okay. No proxies, nothing all too aggressive. One thing that sets this map apart is the fact that the natural to natural distance is very quick. You can go from that side of the map to the other side really quickly with, for example, an Oracle. For example, a Medivac drop. Likewise, the distance from ground to ground is relatively short. Furthermore, you only really have one set expansion pattern on this map. So the main base is over here, natural is over here, and then the third base is over there. And I guess you have two fourth base options, but both of them kind of suck. And the fifth base is also quite far out there, so you have to make a decision as far as the strategy goes here. Generally speaking, the expansion patterns are set in stone. So if you can block your opponent's third base, or sometimes even the natural, that can really slow everything down a ton. It's one of the reasons why this map does get vetoed. Actually, not exactly sure what the win-loss ratio is for this map, for this matchup. Let me have a look. Liquipedia keeps track of all of the pro games played on every map. This map has a slight Protoss advantage, actually. So 52% win rate against Terran at the professional level. Terran versus Zerg is currently at about 60% win rate for Terran. Zerg versus Protoss has a 52% win rate for Zerg. So that's kind of interesting. Zerg significantly behind against Terran, but slightly ahead against Protoss. Terran significantly ahead against Zerg, but slightly behind against Protoss. And then Protoss slightly ahead against Terran, but a little bit behind against Zerg. It's an interesting little triangle there. Anyways, so far nothing out of the ordinary. What will it be? Should be a good old Twilight. When we get up to 100 gas, right now. Hey, there we go. Reaper. Would like to get the confirmation of that as well. Doesn't want to lose the Reaper already, though, at this point. Yeah. He knows there's going to be Adepts out. The Adepts don't really give him much information. Could still easily be a Stargate. So you have to sort of be prepared against everything here as Terran. Then again, though, the ball at this point in the game is in your court. Up until about 4 minutes, you're not really too concerned about any sort of like Oracle builds or anything along those lines. So Clem knows that. He's going to be roaming the map here for a little bit longer. Wants to figure out exactly what's happening here. So he sees the timing of the gateway over there at the front. He sees the timing, of course, of the Nexus. But he hasn't really seen any true tech. Obviously, when you don't see a flying unit within the next like 30 seconds or so, it is also pretty clear that it's not a Stargate opener. So that is one of the scouting paths in StarCraft 2 that is the trickier one to explain. But not seeing certain units is also scouting info. Clem is apparently gonna give it a shot, see if he can get across the map. Natural expansion is very close by. Not a lot of distance to cover. Even if there is a Phoenix flying in, this is still 6 Marines and a Widowmine. They can just drop down and push this all away. Good control here by Max. Pulls the probes. Doesn't really take a lot of damage. We're going to start Widowmine. Oh, okay. We're going to start target firing down. Well, first the Widowmine, but then also, of course, any Marines that are hanging out here. Stalkers will be getting their blink upgrade in just about 10 seconds. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Chrono Boost speeds it up. I was Chrono Boosting my commentary. 3 gateways this time around, though. 4 gateways, actually. I was going to say, no, this is once more a 4 gate. So much like the previous game, MaxPax is once more going into 4 gateways, and that is a notable commitment. Generally speaking, in the current meta, you go for about 3 gateways, sometimes even 2, into a 3rd Nexus. MaxPax now going 4 gates, twice in a row. This is the build order that he absolutely dominated the scene with, maybe a year or 2 ago, but yeah, then he accidentally trained everybody to be really good against his build. But it hasn't been played that much. Now we have a Cloak Banshee inside of the main base, and that is going to put a lot of pressure on MaxPax. He needs to perform right here, right now. Good pickup control so far. Probes are dying though. Observer is available, but he's going to need to micro multiple areas at once. So far, not really any SCVs killed. Only 1 siege tank available. Keep in mind that there is also a Cloak Banshee here at the front. No Observer. Looks like the Banshee from the main base, though, has been destroyed. And that means that the Observer can come across the map, too. It's unlikely that Terran will have a 3rd Phoenix in this sort of scenario. Or Phoenix. A 3rd Oracle. Look, I've only played this game for about 15 years, okay? You can't possibly expect me to know that that is not an Oracle, nor a Phoenix. They generally only go for 2. Oh, beautiful. He dropped down the Zealots there to draw the siege tank fire. I don't know if they are aware of it, but these guys were the bait. Still though, MaxPax with an economical deficit. And keep in mind, there is no 3rd base on the back of this either. There were variations of this build back in the day where Clem would face off against triple Nexus Protoss here, and then still about this much aggression just a little bit later. And Terrans would struggle against that sort of thing all the time. This is a very committed push right now by MaxPax and some really solid Stalker micro. Still though, not a ton of losses on the side of Terran either. 2 siege tanks going down is the most notable thing. We still have 2 siege tanks available. He decides to aggressively blink forward, gets another one of those siege tanks out of the equation. SCVs, though, trying to body block to the best of their abilities. Okay, Prism still alive. Marines tried to gun that one down. It doesn't have a lot of HP, but as long as the HP is above 0, that's all that really matters. And now the SCVs are mostly unprotected. Do we do another blink forward? We do apparently blink about half of the Stalkers. One of the siege tank goes down. Other siege tank in the main, though, blasting away at those Stalkers. Now 5 confirmed kills. Bunker stays alive for the time being. but it does have a little bit of trouble. Okay. Loads of SCVs have gone down. Now that MaxPax does not have to worry about any units on his side of the map, he is able to put all of his emphasis on microing here. And even though this is a build that Clem has really not struggled against too much as of late, it's also become relatively unpopular, and maybe MaxPax is making a previous build once more one of the very best. This is really difficult to control properly though for both players. So far the losses on the Terran side are significantly bigger than those on the side of the Protoss. No Stimpack or anything like that here anytime soon. Clem is just continuously dealing with a ton of Stalkers being warped in. And you know what? Here we go. Another big aggressive blink forward. And I think the Danish Protoss may have just done it again, although he does lose the Prism. Another siege tank in a world of trouble, but without additional reinforcements here coming up, this might not be doable. If the Prism was around, I think he could warp in an additional 4 Stalkers right now and be okay. Instead, he would have to do it all the way from the other side of the map, and as soon as those Stalkers blink out of the main base, he's gonna lack high ground vision. I say that, there is still an observer around. Okay, bunker. I mean, that's gonna be quite defendable, but are those SCVs in time? They will be in time, just barely. Clem keeps that one around. Stalkers have to run all the way from the other side of the map. I don't know if Clem realizes that there's an observer in the main base. If he assumes that all of his defenses need to be concentrated on the low ground, he's going to be in for a bit of a surprise. Prism number 2 has shown up though. Now there's enough Stalkers to out-DPS it. And Clem realizes with the Prism spotted as well that there is no way he's going to be able to hold against a good old 4-gate Stalker push.